What's up, guys and gals? Welcome back to the Nerd Castle. Today in the world of indie games, we're going to be taking a look at a title called Annihilate the Spance, which is actually a pretty elegant Starfleet battleship game that can have upwards of like 1,000 units on screen at a time, all scrumming with one another, and I found it to be pretty entertaining. The downside of this title is that it does come at a pretty hefty price tag of $30, and it is in early access, but as of right now, the game does have campaigns for multiple different races with multiple different ship combinations. It's also got skirmish modes and stuff like that, and I have found the game to be enjoyable. I've been playing for about 2 hours now, and I think the game is good, and I don't really think there's anything else quite like it out there on the market. So let's spend about 30 minutes getting you guys acclimated and figuring out whether or not this is one of the games that you wanted to add to your wish list or otherwise pass on. If after watching this you wanted to get the game for yourself, I got a link for you down below in the description. You can check that out there. On top of that, you can also find a link to a bunch of other Nerd Castle stuff down there. Nobody ever interacts with it, but I shout it out every episode anyways, so feel free to peruse that stuff. But let's get on into the game. I think what we'll do today is we'll play one of the missions that I've gotten through while playing through the campaign, and if we have any leftover time after that, we'll try to fiddle around with maybe the skirmish mode to play around with some of the really big, really gnarly ships, but let's get after it. Alright, so in this mission, as with most of the missions in Annihilate the Spance, we're going to be annihilating stuff. It's right there in the game name. But in this mission, we have an AI facility that's conducting illegal research inside one of our sovereign territories, and it's our job to annihilate it. Now, in this mission, there is a fun little stipulation. We've got an ally who's also going to be building a base alongside us and trying to wipe out the enemy. But for now, let me get down to some of the basic nomenclature inside the game so that you'll understand what I'm doing as I'm doing it. So at the bottom of the screen, you're going to see right here, this is our base core, our platform. Every single mission, you're going to have a platform, and you're going to be building around it. This platform has a footprint that will allow you to build various buildings, and this game kind of rests nestled in between something like an automation game, an RTS, and also an auto battler. That is to say, you have no micromanagement control over your units in this game. Instead, you're setting up paths that they're attacking through, and everything else kind of spawns automatically. This means that this is a game that has absolutely ludicrous levels of space battles and fighting, as you saw in the opening sequence, but it actually is minimized micro in a number of really elegant ways. We also have our matter down here. Our matter, that's going to be the resource that builds just about everything in the game. We've got our logistics, that's going to limit how many turrets and how many different units we can field. This right here is our energy, and it's kind of a floater resource that fills in on a whole bunch of stuff, but ultimately becomes most useful because it allows you to expand your footprint and make your base larger so that you can claim new territories. At the beginning of the game, we're going to need to get moving pretty fast because it looks like he's already sending out a little bit of an attack posse to come and murder us. And so at the beginning of the game, what I'd like to do is, let's go ahead and we'll build a couple of cohesors first. These are gonna start generating matter for us. That way our matter numbers will go up. And then from there, we also need to get some turrets up and running. And so let's get a couple of striker turrets out here, if we can manage it. And then maybe a couple of healing turrets behind those turrets, just so we can soften up this assault before the enemy gets here. Now, there is a side objective in this mission. There's a big mineral-dense field down here that if we can wipe out this, I guess they're sort of like a spacefaring algae or something like that. They're not like a sentient race as far as how they described it to me, but they're basically like a space nuisance where they like take over stuff. We can wipe these guys out. It'll give us access to these mineral fields, which would be quite a lot of matter if we can get it all under our belt. But we've got other more pressing issues that we've got to deal with for right now. Are those turrets all online? Okay, so they're coming in from the left side as well. We're going to need to do something about that. So I'll put in a couple of just little anti-fighter turrets over here. Something for them to chew on. These fighters are unlikely to kill off these turrets before they spawn. And it looks like we've killed off the first batch of enemies. And really, I need to spend the early game ringing myself with defenses because this enemy's going to come on strong. In this mission, the last time I completed it, they don't really attack your ally at all. They mostly just attack you nonstop. So we need to get up and running rapidly. Things to be seen to in this opening portion. Let's see if we can get a couple of striker turrets down here. I don't know if I want to play all defensive for right now. Utilities-wise, we could get some more electricity. That would probably not be the worst idea. So maybe I'll drop in a couple of energy generators down here at the bottom, and hopefully we just don't get flanked around and murdered. They will be sending non-stop stuff at us from here on out. However, it does look like they're kind of halfway beefing with the algae race over here too. That's a little bit bigger of a ship, and that kind of concerns me. I don't know if these 3 turrets can take him down. I'm not sure if that's going to be plausible. Give me like another striker turret over here. Give me one right there. Give me one right there. We'll kind of just like ring out the corners of our base, because a lot of the things the enemy likes to do are going to be orbiting you like he's doing right now. He's going to like spin around your base while shooting at you. And if he ends up killing these, that's okay. I don't really mind that too much because we're already getting fire off on him. And then I'll just rebuild these on the corners real quick to make sure that we're good and safe. And that'll keep all of the pests out of our neighborhood. We may need a couple of repair turrets down here just acting as a blockade to make sure everything's repaired. But we have a little bit of a resource shortage going right now, but we are generating a little bit more electricity. Let's get some basic... Oh, he actually went over here and he's fighting with our ally right now. Good. Take the pressure off me for a minute. I need a second. I need a breather. We can put down some level 1 shipyards. Everything in this game is actually designed really, really well. What I mean by that is everything has kind of like painter tools attached to it, and that goes for controlling stuff as well as just generally reconfiguring things. There's lots and lots of ways in this title to do micromanagey things very, very rapidly with rubber band boxes and stuff like that. And so quality of life is going to be one of those things that I think this game absolutely knocked out of the park with no hesitation. I need to get this defensive blockade built back up. That way it's fully strong. So let's put those down right there. Yeah, just a whole bunch of healing turrets right there to make sure that that holds. Our first little fleet guys have now spawned. The aggro in this game, it works sort of in an interesting way. It takes some getting used to, but in this title, they've knocked out one of my turrets already. Fantastic. I'm just spending so much money and resources right now. Just kind of rebuilding things that I've already built. Get that striker turret back, and then we'll use the remainder of our money to get a few more shipyards down. That way we're getting something that's putting pressure on the enemy. And really, if you boil it down, this is sort of a push-pull tug-of-war game that has some pretty rad, awesome visuals going for it while you're fighting through these battles. His forces look like they're a little bit distracted over on that side. I don't know where all my units are going, but I appreciate the fact that they're at least trying to fight over on that side. Let's keep developing out our shipyards and making sure that we've got lots and lots of little ships coming on out. We should have about 16 spawns now the next time it rotates through. This little corner turret right here is just getting munched on. I may need to give them something else to mess with in order to save that turret's life over and over and over again. Now, every single unit in the game has a certain number of stats. If you click on them, they've got their HP, they've got their armor, and they've got their heat. Very, very simple stuff. Armor flatly reduces the amount of damage that the unit takes, so if you fired for 25 damage right now, he would take 3 damage. But there is kind of a wrinkle in that. As the enemy gets shot, their armor heats up, and as this heat meter gets higher and higher and higher, you will see this right here, this little shield, it will degrade to red, and this number will slowly go down, allowing you to actually mass up fire with swarm armies on big cruisers and things like that, and really, really whittle away at their armor over time. I think we've got pretty good equilibrium going right now. Like, it feels like I'm sort of fighting things off. Let me get a few more turrets on this left-hand flank just to keep us nice and safe. We're going to run out of logistics pretty shortly, but that's okay. I don't mind it. You guys just kind of keep floating and fighting, and I'll show you guys, once we get into more complicated stuff, I'll show you what it takes to guide your units around, because you must be thinking to yourself, okay, so it's just like auto-battling right now. Where does my agency come in? Well, your agency comes in because each of these manufactories right here that's spitting out little ships, there's multiple different types of ships that you can spit out, and so you are configuring the overall assemblage of your fleet. Different ships are good at different things. Some are really strong against armor, some are really good against swarm enemy units, some of them are really, really good at knocking out buildings and stuff like that. And then on top of that, we've got this little system right here called the Gatherer system. You can set up a gather pool right here, and it will select every single unit in this area, and were I to go like that, every single time units respawn, they will come back over this way, they will follow this path, and you can set a whole bunch of these down. So I could dedicate these guys right here to cut left, I could dedicate these these guys to cut up here and reinforce his units on that side if I wanted to. Completely and totally entirely up to you, but you do have a level of control right there, and in fact, varying up your tactics is going to become mandatory as you get into missions that are a little bit more complex just via observation and seeing what your allies are doing. He's really starting to spit out units right now. Let's get, so a shipyard that I would like to have, let me get a miner over here. He's going to go out and get these little crystal veins and bring them back, and that'll give us a little infusion of cash that'll help out. I've only got 4 logistics left, so let's go ahead and drop in a couple repair turrets on this side just so they've got a little bit of regeneration going. And then from there, we've got to get our pop cap up. So that means I got to build a whole bunch of base cores. I'm going to build base cores over here. These are very, very power intensive though. So they're going to eat up our entire power supply, but each one of these should increase our fleet cap by 5. That way we have more guys running around capable of getting into the fight and making things happen. It looks like we're holding over on this side at least a little bit with our turrets. This side looks like it's helping as well, turning this corner into somewhat of a kill box, so I can absolutely live with that. If you guys could wipe out a few more of them while our fleet respawns, that'd be great, but I think we're not fielding enough ships right now. I think we need to field quite a few more ships if we want to punch through, because right now we're sitting on our heels and we're fighting very, very defensively at the moment. Our allies trying to help by sending out a couple of little fleets, but it's probably not going to square things away in the end. So let me get 8 more shipyards over here, and this is where we're going to start to diversify. I'm going to take these 4 yards right here, and they're going to start pushing out Fauces. Fauces are midlife melters. They come through and ruin your life right about the time you become 41. But no, these guys are really strong against armor. Their entire gag or gimmick is that their weapon doesn't do like any damage, but it heats the hell out of the enemy's armor, thus making it easier for all of your other units to kill things off. They are actually pushing through down here in a kind of unpredictable way, but then again, I didn't really get to finish this blockade over here either. Put those down right there, and then give me another line of repair guns to keep us nice and healed up while we're fighting with the enemy, firing from our flotilla. And now we've got some ships on the field that are doing their thing. We are going to want to upgrade and get some bigger ships, though. On this mission, we only have medium ships available, but medium ships will have to do. Give me, like, can I get, like, a 6th shipyard? It bothers me when things aren't even. I like things to be good, solid, even numbers. So if we could do that, that'd be great. With these guys over here, we've got to decide what we want to do. We've got Odorels. They're really, really good against AoE enemies. They're decent against armor. They're kind of a jack-of-all-trade unit that dies instantly if they get hit with armor piercing. We've got the Partel over here. Strong against armor, decent against artillery, but it gets overwhelmed very easily by swarm units because it fires torpedoes. And then this guy over here, the Lantra, fires plasma rounds that shred buildings. This guy is a siege unit, basically. For right now, this stack, I think I'm just gonna have them all be the anti-assault units, so they will all be Odorel production, and we'll see what the enemy decides to do before we start kicking off any true mayhem here. Energy is regenerating, although I think I've got a little bit of a window right now where I can get some more reactors down. There we go. I'd like my energy to be ticking up a little bit more rapidly. My miner is mining right now, so that's good, and it looks like we're starting to beat back the enemy advance ever so slightly. I think those 8 reactors should be good enough for what I'm trying to do right now. There are a few errant shots that are getting through from the overall fighting on this side, but in the chaos, it's sort of inevitable that you're going to catch yourself a Ricky at some point, so is what it is. We are mostly defended for right now, and my ships are beginning to push back against the enemy and make things happen. In the meantime, it also looks like our ally has actually destroyed some of its turrets on this side, so the enemy's dedicating so hard to hitting us that they're not really tending their garden right now, and they're getting whooped on the right side. Let's make that issue worse for them, shall we? Let's make that a little bit less tenable. So I would like to fill this entire area with shipyards. There we go. And then on this side, with all these shipyards, I would like you to produce Kanas to get rid of enemy drones. And this is where we're going to start having our first collection point. So you guys over here, you're going to push out that way. You guys over here, are going to come out like this and hit them from the side, also acting as a little bit of a sideswipe defense from anything that's coming from that direction, just to keep conflict up and off my shoulders. You can see our first flight of big ships now coming out. That's the good stuff, and they should actually turn to engage these guys and make short work of this fleet before it can get on in here and cause any mayhem or issues. I don't think any of our fleets are actually going to make it to the enemy front, but we are putting pressure on them now, which is a blessing in and of itself. With the resources that we've stacked up and the pressure that we've relieved, I think it's a really good idea for right now for us to put in another base core so that we have more footprint down here to play around with, so that I can start spitting out even more units to start going in through down here. I'll probably have the left side focus all on assault, the right side focus all on siege, and then we'll just package them on up and we'll send them back that way. It looks like we're holding to me. I think we're okay. It doesn't look like a whole lot of shots are actually making it to our defensive line, so I think we're in good shape. This is going to take 30 seconds to build, but there it is. We now have a much larger area that we can deploy our stuff inside of, which will be very helpful. The first thing we should probably do is just secure this from enemy incursion. And that looks about right to me, just making sure that none of these dudes over here flow into my territory and cause any problems while I've got my back turned and I'm dealing with enemy forces. He is escalating, though. He's sending a lot more at us now than he was, so this would probably be a really good time to get us a second row of medium units right there. And these will focus all on assault for right now, I think. Yeah, that sounds acceptable to me. So these guys will all be assaults, and their entire job is just going to be to mop up other mediums and smalls. And then once we get our siege engine up and running down here, that's when we'll start sending big siege attacks with like nuclear torpedo and bombardment towards the south side of their base over there. But for right now, we appear to be in a really, really good spot. You see how it's heating up their armor so quickly that they can't soak the hits? You love to see it, man. You absolutely love to see it. Did they destroy a shipyard over here? You little bastards. They destroyed one of my shipyards. Okay. Well, give me a few more striker turrets over here to see if we can make sure that doesn't happen any further. Maybe it was just a fluke, but maybe it's something we've got to pay attention to as well. Actually, it looks like they've got some kind of missile frigs back there that are shooting us from super deep. Okay, that's what's going on. I was wondering why this keeps getting mangy. Like, it keeps getting a little bit more mangy as we go along. We've got maxed out resources, so what I'd like to do down here, we don't have maxed out logistics, so let's work on that first. I need more base cores. I will go base cores, base cores, base cores, and then we've got to wait for all of our resources to come back. Looks like we broke through the enemy line right there, so the assault has been blunted. I do wish my ally would actually send something over here to assist, though. I feel like I'm doing a lot of heavy lifting while he's killed he's killed like 10 buildings over there, but I do feel like I'm the one that's taking the brunt of the assault right now and just having to kind of like deal with it. Matter is all back up and running, so that's good. Let's put a repair turret. Oh, they killed all of my turrets down here. When did that happen? Okay. Well, then let's get those back in position, I suppose. And this is why we like to have repair turrets just kind of scattered around to be helpful. There we go. Repair turrets, good to go. Lots of little things to manage and make sure nothing's going wrong. I know who did it. It was one of these rotating guys right here where they rotate around the circumference of your base or whatever, the diameter or the perimeter. There we go. That's the word that I'm looking for. Geometry in the 8th grade carrying me on through. There are much bigger ships that you can play around with in this game, as you saw from the opening sequence, but I thought that after the 2 hours or so that I played of campaign and skirmish, this was the best mission to open on, because this is a mission where you've got to vary up your fleets and kind of like guide them around and make things happen. We are ready for shipyards. Many, many shipyards. So let's start out down here. And we'll just paint those on out. And then we're going to want to instantaneously get down in here, make a collection point, and we're going to have these sweep up like so. We're also going to diversify their loadout a little bit by making some of it kill armor. some of it kill drones, and then the rest can just be swarmers, I think, and that'll work out okay. Is my mining ship still mining out here? He is still mining. He's getting his job done, and he's giving them what for. Those minerals are gonna find out the hard way that they should not be inside my airspace. Now that we've got that batch all nice and done, I would actually consider maybe doing a few more because their swarm capacity is not quite what I want it to be, but I will need this to be a little bit larger right there. So now I feel like we've got enough swarmers and we've got a few supplementary units over here to help out. On the other side, what we're gonna do is on the other side, we're gonna put non-stop siege units hitting them along this southern flank. And I think that'll work out really, really well. It looks like he's starting to build out battle cruisers. That's a little bit of a problem. Those guys are pretty tanky and capable of ruining our lives pretty aggressively. However, his armor is heating up, I guess, a little bit. Not as much as I would like it to heat up, but a little bit. But at least the fight is no longer inside my territory. Yeah, wipe them out while you're in the neighborhood, too, because we're going to need clean passage up and down and right there. We're maxed out on resources right now, so that's very, very good. Let's go ahead. We will get some shipyards built down here. And I would like for the 4 to be producing assault cruisers. I would like for the 3 to be doing siege cruisers. And we'll see how these guys turn out as we push out in that direction. It looks like they got a little bit sidetracked fighting with the newts. That's okay because the newts have come in a couple of times and attacked the south end of my base, and I'd rather not deal with that, but actually this flank is going very, very well right here, and you can see this battle is getting hot over on this side. It's like the Somme in space right now, dude. Good stuff. They do have a lot of missiles being fired, so I'm glad that I put the guys in there that have point defense that shoot down missiles. These little drone guys, they kill drones, but they also shoot down missiles, which can be really helpful. And it looks like on that left side, we're actually shredding the enemy up pretty well. I was not expecting to break through until this southern fleet started to come around in force. Let's keep that momentum going. We'll get a few more of these guys. You guys are all gonna be... Let's go with more siegecraft, I guess. More siegecraft sounds really, really good. And then we'll just sort of see how the whole thing plays out if I throw it up on max speed. Let's see how it goes. The newts are becoming an annoyance down here. The newts are becoming something that's going to have to be dealt with. Unfortunately, I'm surrounded and getting attacked from a lot of directions right now. I don't know if the newts are going to keep coming. I mean, we killed off that nest that was south of our base, so that's good. They're not producing units down here anymore. Doesn't look like anything good's happening. Oh, they did actually. They wiped out the entire east side of the enemy's base. So their production capabilities are down and falling apart. Now, if you're particularly observant, you may have noticed during the course of this video that there's AI art for all the portraits. The reason why normally I don't feature games that have AI art inside of them, but for the case of this game, they do have a disclosure at the bottom of their Steam page saying that all of the AI art is just temporary placeholders for the duration of development, and that it's going to be replaced when the game comes out of early access. So I gave them a pass because the game is fun, it's great looking, it's enjoyable to play around with, and I think it's got a gameplay loop that a lot of other titles just flat out don't really have. I do think that this is the kind of game that's going to be very, very attractive to a certain type of personality. And there it is. We've wiped the enemy's base. The AI has surrendered to us, and you've just witnessed your first round of Annihilate the Spance. So let's jump into some skirmish gameplay, and I'll hit you guys with my closing thoughts. And honestly, those are really simple to get down to. I think the game is pretty good. I think that if you think about the framing of how this game was designed, like the real effort here to my eye playing it, is that they wanted to create an RTS that had mass amounts of units that ultimately didn't have very much micro. You weren't going to be setting up keybinds for your different groupings and stuff like that. What is the fastest possible path that we can take for a player to sit down, have a massive base, and then just fling enormous quantities of ships at each other in explosive visual fare so that they can be delighted by the spectacle taking place. And I think they've pulled that off here. That's really what it feels like, is a super condensed real-time strategy game where you get into the action instantaneously and you can just see some really cool stuff happen, like ships blowing up. It captures that 11-year-old feeling very, very well, that like 11-year-old child feeling where you've got a couple of Star Wars toys and you're crashing them into each other and just going like, you know, it captures that very, very well. The specific things that I liked about this title, I can't think of anything in the control scheme, actually, that was a pain in the ass to deal with. Everything from regrouping your factories to making them sync up with their production and fire off their ships at the same time, to changing around what ship you're producing, to setting up like rally paths and stuff like that. It was all very easy and effortless. You are going to have to play through 1 or 2 tutorial missions to get there, as it explains the very specific things you have to do in order to get that stuff to happen. But I found all the keybinds to be thoughtful. I found all of the painting tool designs to be thoughtful, where you can just stamp out loads and loads of buildings so that you can get tons of ships out right this second. The game does have push pause though, so even if you're like a slower player as far as RTS is concerned, this is one of those games where you can sit there and think about it for a little while before you start deploying all your forces and blowing stuff up. It seems like there's a number of different campaigns. I'm about midway through the human one right now, and then there's a couple after that that say that I haven't unlocked them. You've got to play through everything in order. From what I've seen so far, the writing seems to be reasonably well done. It's kind of standard military fare where they're like, "Commander, this has happened inside of our sector and needs to be addressed immediately." It doesn't get too crazy with it so far, but still everything was done well. I didn't see any typos, I didn't see any grammatical errors, and ultimately there was nothing there to break my immersion that I was a guy building grids of shipyards to blow up other people. From there, things that I think could be a little bit better, some of the explosive effects. I think what happened here is they designed the entire game around mass warfare, and so there are performance considerations to be taken into balance in that equation before you can really ramp up the visual effects. But I did feel like, so the entire game, I had my sound effect volume at 100%, but I had my music volume at like 50%, 40%, and I still couldn't make out the sounds of combat happening, of torpedoes being fired, of ships blowing up, of hulls creaking and cracking and falling apart. So I think the game could have a little bit more of an in-your-face soundscape going for it. The game is $30 right now, and it is a reasonably simple game when you compare it to stuff like StarCraft or things like Stronghold, where there's very complex strategies that go into it. So far, I've kind of found that if you build a fleet that has like 10 of everything, and then you just sort of expand that ratio as you go along, it seems to work out pretty well. So it doesn't seem to be an overly complex game so far, but at a $30 price tag, there is some content here. There's multiple campaigns for multiple different races that each have, like, you know, a bunch of different units and buildings that they can build. I haven't got to play a lot of the other races yet. I've played against them, so I can infer some information about how they play from just playing against them. So I don't know if they're like tectonically different like you would see in something like StarCraft, where, you know, the Protoss, the Zerg, and then the Marines are all very, very different from each other. They all have different strategies and things they're trying to do. I don't know if that unfolds with this title. I've played for a couple hours, and I think my closing thoughts are that I had a good time, and I was impressed by some of the quality of life that was here. I expected it to be a lot more difficult to control and tack down than it was, so I had fun playing around with Annihilate the Spance. Hopefully you do too, but the price tag is kind of chunky. My name is Splattercat. I sift through the pile to find what's worthwhile in the world of indie games every single day so that you don't have to. Today up on the chopping block, it was Annihilate the Spance. Tomorrow it'll be something else. Thanks for hanging out, and that's about all I got for you. Bye, folks.